All right, if you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ivy, would you lead it for us?
Oh, I would love to.
Thank you.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to just go over a few things to let you know. These are just some of the pros and cons to each schedule the board has been discussing. And we're definitely looking at these and others, but this is the quick run-through. Looking at recruitment and retention of teachers, increasing the number of teacher contact hours for students, taking part in extracurricular activities, allowing more family time for parents, guardians, students, and staff, making it easier for teachers to see their own kids participate in activities, keeping benefits for staff who may be close to the hour cutoff. We're also looking at how we can help students who face food insecurity and how we can help students who need extra help and using Friday mornings for that. So that being said, we'd love to hear your comments.
Would you guys introduce yourself? Who are you?
Okay. Wes.
I'm Paul Bow. I'm school board trustee.
Tyler Mills, school board trustee. Joe Prout, school board trustee.
Deanna Mantovigi, school board trustee.
Brett McCray, superintendent of schools.
Dana Gordon, school board trustee.
I'm Billy Fitzwater, school board trustee.
I see no hands raised. Who brought hot chocolate?
She's got paperwork. Of course she does. That's how we do. Right, that's fair. If anyone else is interested, I've got a little bit of extras.
I don't know. So this is the whole show. So the high school staff, we met on Friday and discussed kind of where we were at as a staff, just because we kind of wanted to show solidarity as a unit on where we were at with things. And so this is kind of what you're looking at is the points we felt were most important in this discussion. I think what the takeaway was from our session was that most of us were either pretty split, indifferent, or leaning towards pro. The reasons why, I'm just so up on my phone because I don't have the notes. Oh, thank you. That's how much to read it. I appreciate you. So for those of you that don't have a paper in front of you, I'll try to summarize so you don't have to listen to me read 4 pages. But we really liked that we would have some time set aside for work time. As most of you know, parents, teachers alike, most teachers continue working weekday evenings, Saturdays, Sundays. So we do feel like having some actual time set aside. When we broke down those hours, there was a lot more teacher work time hours for us to prepare our ever-changing curriculums, prepare for standard teaching. We also, at this point, feel that a lot of our coaches and student organization leaders are gone on Fridays. So they're really heavy sub days, and both students and teachers alike agree that not a lot of learning happens on Fridays. Do you want to take it point by point and just go back and forth? So that they don't have to listen to me all the time? I'm here.
Okay. So in looking at statewide data, there's really no conclusive evidence that shows 4-day school week versus 5-day school week is any better than the other. And
Please hold the microphone up so we can hear you.
And I'm sure that a lot of you have friends, family, know people. Sorry, my dog is not sleeping. Know people that work in the 4-day school week. It's really hard because we're insulated basically with 4-day school week. Crook County, Custer, right to the south of us. And so that was just one of the things that we pointed out is that they have all had the same situation, same concerns that we have had as they discuss moving to a 4-day school week. But they do say that they would not go back other than, that was the first time last week that I heard of somebody that was not happy with the 4-day school week. We had the Student Council Summit last week. We had all over the region Northeast. Bighorn was here and their advisor said same thing. Happy, love it, Moorcroft, all of Crook County was here too, same feeling.
And to that point too, one of the things we talked about as staff Friday was that those schools did have all the same concerns we have that were on that con list. And one thing we found comforting in our meeting was to hear that they did have those same concerns and yet they still are on the other side of it feeling positive that they kind of faced themselves. This is a big one. I don't know if you guys read the paper, but the article is pretty bleak recently about where we're at funding wise. So we know that this is not a solution to a funding issue. It's our district is shrinking in class size in the lower elementary. And in the long run, we're going to have to adjust to that no matter what type of calendar we operate under. Likely what that will look like is high school and middle school staff being shared. So moving, one thing we talked about was moving now to an in-sync schedule. The 4 days would provide would make those changes smoother when they inevitably do have to happen for both staff and students.
And right now, the high school staff does share some of their CTE people with the middle school, and so moving to the 4-day school week and to 7-period day could make that transition a little bit easier as well. One of the things that came up were in the concern about internships. And right now we have a very robust internship program at the high school where kids are getting out into the community and working with businesses, with people, learning the skills, learning how to be good employees and good human beings. And one of the concerns last week was that we would have to lessen that. And from our discussions, we don't believe that's true. The juniors they started their first semester, they take success in the workplace, and then second semester can start their internships. And then senior year, more than likely, our kids right now, our seniors, are stacking up on internships. So some of them have a full day of internships because they may not have another class that they have to take, their credits are already full. And so they're getting that great opportunity, but at the same time, they do have that opportunity, whether it's a 4-day or a 7-period, 4-day, or a block schedule, 5-day.
The schedule that's been proposed that Mr. Hoffman put together was a 7-period day that basically mimics the current middle school one. But one thing we did see that we liked was that it still does include a recovery period, our ER time, as we call it, which was really important to like our ELA people, our SPED departments, things like that, our athletes. So that was really good to see that was still there. One thing we talked about as a staff was that the consistency in students' schedule would mean getting to see them every day, which I think that actually kind of surprised us in the discussion how much that was all important to us. We didn't realize we missed seeing them every day until we had this discussion. But kind of what it brought up was with the current block, we could go more than a week without seeing a student just based on activity schedules. If they're gone Tuesday and Thursday, that means we don't see them that whole week. So that was a big benefit to us, just that teacher time. Our SPED department noted that one specifically as a pro because that consistency and routine for their SPED students they felt would be very beneficial. Not having that gap day for the learning loss. Obviously, we talked about CTE. I think that was on the con list. I am a CTE teacher. I'm a WITS teacher. So that was a big scare for me. I'm not going to lie. I spent 3 years perfecting the 90 minutes. So that was a big discussion we had. And the attitude from the CTE Our ag department's super excited about the potential change to a 7-period day. Art also mentioned she actually used to get more done in her old school, seeing her kids every day than she does now.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.
She actually used to get more done in her old school, seeing her kids every day than she does now with the longer periods. Mrs. Scribner, our culinary and early childhood teacher, and myself were probably the ones that felt we'd be affected the most, having to change our time management, but we both felt like if we're kind of at the attitude if other schools have figured this out, we can figure it out.
And I just want to point out too that the ER, so we call that enrichment recovery, and right now it's half an hour of time that we work with students. Teachers can pull kids that need a little bit more work or need to focus on something specific, a standard or a lesson, whatever that may be. And that, like Bessie said, was a really big point of contention that we keep ER for intervention to make sure that whatever it is that the kids need to work on, they are still getting that intervention, that time with a professional. So the next thing was that is very specific to high school is the loss of opportunity from 32 credits down to 28 if we move to a 7-period day. And like I said before, we as a staff mostly thought that this wasn't an issue because right now seniors, I think the number was 96% of our seniors out of the 52 kids. We have maybe 5 kids that are utilizing the time to take all the credits they can, which means that they are stacked on all of our sciences. They're taking EWC credits, but more than, it was actually closer to 99% almost, are not utilizing that full 8 periods a day. So they are doing stacked internships, they are doing open hours, they're doing independent studies, they're doing recoveries. And a lot of the time, because I'm a recovery person, they're working on EWC classes, which is great, but, and that's the next point, sorry to take that from you. Mr. Hoffman and Mrs. Kongsman sat down and they found that time that takes them to do the EWC class will not be lessened and they can still get that credit for EWC. So really, what we found is that it doesn't lessen their opportunities for classes and it won't lessen our opportunity to offer classes.
And to that point, one thing I want to make sure we mention too is we, as the high school staff, feel like we do have a unique opportunity to include the students in this discussion. We teach the students at an age that they have a say, they care about this, and have educated opinions about it. And so a lot of this discussion is based on feedback we also got with talking to them. This next one especially, the Fridays off for students does relieve some stress for our student athletes, and especially those students who really rely on outside jobs. Some of them do it, because they just want to have money. Some of them need that money, and so they love the idea of having a whole nother day where they can get shift hours. Okay, it also helps our local businesses out having those extra students available for work hours as well.
And to that point, I want to make sure that we're not just focusing on student athletes, because that is a big part of our equation, right? A lot of our students participate in these outside school activities, very, very important. However, when I have these discussions with my students, I have an honor society student that is not involved in any school activities, any sports, and she works full-time. She does a lot of community service, and it's also that she can have that resume for her. But her mental health is taking a hit because she may not be involved in the school things other than honor society, but she is busy and she's working towards that goal of getting out and doing things in the real world. So I know that we might talk about student athletes, student being the emphasis there, then they're the athlete, but it does pertain to them, but we also have students that we're talking about that in our heads we're thinking of as well.
Also, our coaches and our student organization leaders, I know Morgan, my co-part out there in the BOAG building, our great FFA. Oh, she's here. Hi, Morgan. I'm going to talk to you and about you. Is that okay? She's wonderful. And she's done a great job with the FFA organization, but she is here, like, before the sun comes up and long after the sun goes down, which isn't hard when you're in Wyoming, but to my point, she's here really early and really late. And one thing she mentioned, speaking to that mental health portion, is part of why she's here so late is she has to hold all those student organization activities after sports. And so that's why she's here till 9:30 at night. Where if we had that Friday time, she's mentioned she could squish all that in to Fridays, relieving stress on her, relieving stress on our students' schedules. So.
Which will also be necessary for high school staff because what we currently do is if a student isn't needed in ER, then we pull them for those meetings. So for me with Honor Society and Student Council, I'm able to pull them during ER for half an hour, but if we move to the 4-day, I'm going to need that other person outside of that to meet with them. The other thing that we were really concerned about is benefits for people because you've been here 5 days. So Bessie and I graduated from here, 5 days, block schedule, the whole shebang. So that's status quo for us basically since high school. But the thing that we are most concerned about is that people do not lose out on anything. So and I know that this was brought up last time too, and we just want to make sure that people maintain their benefits and are able to work as they have, and there's no disruption there because we are obviously people first, and we care about our staff as well. But we really don't think that's an issue according to what admin has told us, that they are willing to do that problem solving and critical thinking to get that done.
Our paras themselves have some great ideas about that too, if this does go through. Issues outside of the school district's control, I think we're all on our con list is, those students that might be getting shorted 2 meals on a Friday, or play at school isn't a place they want to be necessarily, or home isn't a place they want to be, excuse me. I think those are things that our community isn't the only one to experience and have that concern. And as much as, like you said, we're people first, that's something we all care about. I think that it is kind of outside of the school district's problem to solve. So I think it needs to be a separate issue to consider for the community.
Creating that problem by not supporting.
Or is the problem already created by parents? Not.
I understand that, but then you're exacerbating the problem, like once we're going to meet and we off, where we were solving that problem.
But what happens in the summers?
Yeah. Wait a second, Shannon. Can we get a mic, please, so we can all hear it?
I just feel that we, as teachers, and that's always been the schedule that we have summers on. And so I know, like, elementary, the bookmobile goes around and delivers food as part of the bookmobile. Right, so we're still taking care of those kids. And so I just feel that by taking that day, that they at least had a half day in the buildings, then we're making the problem worse and not solving the problem.
Shannon, do you know where the money comes from for the bookmobile and food in the summer? Because I'm really asking. So it's a committee,
yes,
it says paying for that?
And that's kind of what we wrote down here as well, is that, these other communities that have these same concerns as us, is that it is a community. That's all we're trying to say, is it's not just the school district's issue, it's a community issue. And we have trusted our community folks of hope to kind of step up. And we would hope that, like I said, we've got lots of solutions being spoken up about for if we go this route, and I think the community will, like it has, step up in these instances.
I will just add really quick that the bookmobile was a grant, and hopefully we'll continue to get to do that. That's federal money, so who the heck knows?
I do know we rely on our community a lot. I mean, our indoor soccer programs ask for communities to sponsor tournaments. Like, we ask a lot of our community. If it's, keeping that extra day is asking a little bit less of the community that already does give a lot. I think that we do need to take that into consideration. But now we're putting more on the community that was originally our responsibility as schools by doing that Friday. I mean, that's kind of my point. And is a 7-period day exclusive to a 4-day week? I went to school here and we had a 5-day week on a 7-period day. You were saying the benefits of a 7-period day, but that can be extended to a 5-day school. It doesn't have to be to a 4-day week. They're not exclusive to one another. And so I'm just curious as to, and I'm not attacking you, please don't feel that way. These are things that I had in my notes and when they came up there, as it just not being something that, if that is the benefit, having a 7-period day, that benefit can be reached by having a 5-day school week, not by going to a 4-day school week. That benefit can be reached by having a 5-day school week, not by going to a 4-day school week.
Right, and I think, again, these are good conversations to have, we're having that conversation, and I think, like you said, it's not an exclusive to one way or the other. It's just in the conversation right now, the conversation is going from what we have to a change to 4. So we're focusing on what that change would look like compared to what we have now, not compared to any possibility that it could be. So,
Bessie, I'm just gonna, I know you guys would be really sad if I didn't talk tonight. One thing after that came up last time is I just kind of asked around a little bit, and I know that at least Upton provides a sack lunch, if not maybe breakfast and sack lunch on Fridays. Like they open their doors to those kiddos. And again, would that be a creative way to get some of our hourly people hours? I don't know. I'm just tossing it out there. But I do know that schools still provide the school or the food piece in places.
that is something we talked about at our high school staff meeting too, was, back in the day, there was that like what was it called? Late start Wednesdays, and it was something very similar to that where we were worried about what would those kids do for that morning, and it turned into kind of an enrichment time. And again, that's beyond our scope of planning, but those are the ideas, the solutions that are at the ready for this change.
And I promise we're almost done.
Yeah, we're on the back page of it.
Paul, do you want us to pause?
I have something to add to that about lunch and breakfast at Upton. I talked to the principal, and they do a program from 8 to 12 where the kids go, if they use it, what our double aces would be or whatever, that kind of program. They said they got funding through that. But then I have another question. One of the workers that I work with asked me to ask this question. Are all hourly workers going to a 4-day work week, or just certain people?
My speculation would be is maintenance or custodial and maintenance will almost have to be the same because your Friday activity is going to be, parking lot shuttle, and of course, the need for custodians for those kinds of activities. So I would say all.
She said, what about administration?
I'm not very efficient, so 7 days is sort of my proficiency scale. I don't know how it would work for everybody.
to finish up here to get us two out of the way. Just remember, I know we're saying a lot, but we are speaking for like our whole big high school staff, so pretend we're like 36 people or whatever we are. And our students, so plus a lot, I don't know the numbers. That's horrible. I don't know which numbers. Well, our last points are just, we kind of talked about the enrichment Friday options. We've got some ideas there to go through. Basically, we know there's lots of other thoughts, concerns. We did talk about how alternative schedules have to be approved yearly. So we did kind of as a staff go, what's the harm of trying?
And that was a big concern with my students is if this has to be approved yearly, and it keeps coming up as a conversation and it's starting to get a little bit annoying year after year that we keep talking about it. Hey, those are the kids' words, not mine. I'm not going to name names. They didn't know that it had to be approved. And so alternative schedules with WBE have to be approved every year. And if this keeps coming up, the question is, why not? And other than that, we haven't touched on everything. And there's a lot of what ifs, but those were just, like Bessie said, some of the thoughts that we had during our staff meeting. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone up here have any questions or any clarifications on them? Anything? No? All right. Who's next?
Okay, so I've been in the district for 25 years. This conversation has been in the district for 25 years. And at first I was a champion for the 4-day school week. I thought, oh, this is great. I'm someone who spends a lot of my time at school. I've had kids who've gone to the district, so I thought, oh, this is great. I don't have to spend my whole life at school. I can do my work on Fridays. I can watch my kids play sports. I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel like it's the best for my students. And it's not because my situation has changed, because I still spend a lot of my time at school, and I still have a kid in school who does sports. So it has nothing to do with me personally. I just look at my demographics and I look at this population of the school, or the kids that I teach now, and it's nothing like what it was like 25 years ago. It's nothing like it was 10 years ago. The students I teach now is nothing like what we've had in the past. And let me give you an example. The kids that we get in our district, let's just talk about language. If you talk to our speech pathologists, our language, we have so many kids on speech IEPs for language. And I bet this is true across our state, across our country. And it's because of our society, and we just don't talk to each other. We are on technology. If you go in a restaurant, you've got people, you'll see 4 people at the table and they're all on their devices. We just don't talk to each other. And I'm guilty of it too sometimes. So we have these children coming in, and our language scores are low. What that does is when our kids come in with low background knowledge and they come in with low language, that has a correlation to low reading. So their ability to comprehend and read is low. So that makes our job as educators more difficult. So we have revamped the grade school, and we have brought in more curriculum that addresses that. And we're working hard to build our language and build those language-rich classrooms. And the only way we can combat that is to have those language-rich classrooms and talk to our kids and build that background knowledge and be with those kids as much as we can and talk to them as much as we can. And when we're cutting back from 5 to 4, that's one less day that we have to do that. I can't do anything with what happens at home. But I can do what I can do with them when I have them. And cutting out one more day of school, that's less I can do with them. Another reason I'm opposed to the 4-day school week, is again the demographics. I think that being here 25 years and teaching summer school for the last probably 20 years and picking those kids up, taking them home, picking them up for summer school, delivering turkeys over Thanksgiving, seeing what they come from, where they are. They need us on Fridays. I know that that's not my job as an educator, but it is my job as an educator. I mean, I signed up to be their safe place, to teach them, to educate them. And I just don't feel good about leaving them home another day. I mean, I didn't sign up to spend one of my days as an educator going to meetings. I signed up to work with kids. I don't want to spend my Fridays meeting with adults again. I want to work with kids. So I mean, that's why I became a teacher, is to work with kids. I get it. I know I'm going to have to spend more time in school. I'm okay with that. And yeah, I do still have a family home, and I do want to watch my kids play sports. I'll make a sacrifice, because I don't want those kids another day at home when I know they could be at school with me. Because, I mean, we work so hard. Not only do we have a language issue, we also have behavior issues.
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.
Not only do we have a language issue, we also have behavior issues. And I'm not saying it's fun. I don't like to be yelled at or kicked or whatever, because that happens. But I know they're crying out for something. They want structure, they want love, they want inclusivity, they want belonging, and that's what we give them when they come to us. You know how hard it is to come back from that? When they go to bed, like for Christmas, and they come back and they have to start all over again? That's going to be harder when they come back from 3 days instead of 2. And I know maybe this is unique to grade school, but we are the foundation. If we can't get them going, it's going to be harder for middle school and high school. And I don't know if I've done the math correctly, or I didn't even do the math. Somebody at the grade school told me the math. But by cutting 1 day a week, do you guys know how many days that is? Have you done the math on it? Somebody told me it's 22 days.
We did have that, and I do not have that with me.
Somebody told me it's 22 days. That's a month of school days. Is that correct? Is that 22 days? A month. That's a lot, including that's the summer. That's a lot of school we're cutting out from these kids. So that I can have some meetings on Friday? That's just crazy.
We do know that 4-day school weeks are longer days, right?
30 minutes. And
it's quite a bit. I have actually worked in a 4-day school week before. And I did my student teaching 4-day school weeks, 5-day school weeks. It's a lot longer on 4-day school weeks.
30 minutes, right. But
It's
also,
a lot longer than 30 minutes.
The grade school said it would be an extra 35 minutes.
Okay, well, it'd be an extra 35 minutes. But it doesn't have to be 35 minutes. It can be longer than that. Because I was going into school, it was 7:30 was when school started, and then it went until 4 o'clock.
Do you think that's great for 6-year-olds?
I'm not saying it's right for 6-year-olds. I
That's
never
what we're
said
gonna
it's
do
for
on 6-year-olds
6-year-olds though. But that's a community thing. They have to decide. That's why it's great to have these talks. I mean, since I was in high school 20 years ago, there was a town right next door to us that's always been on the 4-day school week.
I guess
They figured it out.
my
So I
question
don't know
is,
how we can't figure something
our
out.
motto is what's best for children.
I know.
So is this 4-day school week what's best for children, or is it what's best for us?
I know. Well, and that's the same, I get the same thought when I'm like, why are we always going to early release Fridays? sure the hell isn't helping kids. And we know that, we've had data showing that, it's never helped kids, but for some reason, we always go back to early release Fridays. So what's better, just early release Fridays, or just take the dang day off?
So that's better than early release Friday, if no school at all?
Well, they're not getting in school, it's not helping them at all, because early release Fridays is when PDs happen. Anybody that's a teacher and a coach is not there.
Oh, my kids get Friday, we teach on Friday all day long. Yeah.
I know in elementary schools, but that's what I'm saying, it's different at elementary schools.
Are high school teachers not teaching on Fridays?
We teach on Fridays, but what I'm saying is when we have PD days and the coaches are not there, they leave because they're coaching.
But
How is that?
But the students are still getting education, correct?
So, the students have a very short schedule, but that's the same as a 4-day week. If you extended the days, 4 days, just 4 days and they were extended, it'd be the same amount of time.
But that's keeping our high school kids there to almost 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
then practice. And we talked about how.
Could you use a
high school
microphone,
kids-
please? Thank you.
So our kids are gonna go to school till 4 o'clock. I have a high schooler. She's gonna go to school till 4 o'clock. Then she's gonna have 30 minutes or so, because that's what it is about now. Practice is supposed to start 4:45, 4 o'clock. So now you're looking at 4:15, 4:30. I mean, she's not getting out of practice till what, 6:30 at night? She works at the Manor. She has to be at the Manor at 4:30. When my son worked at Baumgart's, he had to be to work at 4 o'clock to get enough hours in before otherwise they cut his hours at work. So if we do have kids in this district that have to have jobs, we're cutting into the amount of work they can do during the week, as well as just, well, they can work all day Friday. Well, now it gets saturated. How many people are Decker's gonna hire to work on a Friday? Or Baumgart's gonna let work on a Friday? It minimizes that. And at 45 minutes, 35 to 45 minutes to a K-5 child, I teach kindergarten and first grade science at the end of the day. After 30 minutes, the last 15 minutes, I have to find something else to do because they're no longer able to sustain any kind of attention. And that's normal for a child. But if you're looking at pushing that back 35 minutes, then what's that going to do to my kindergarten first graders in science? They're not going to get what they need to build to 3rd and 4th grade science, to 4th and 5th grade science, and then on to middle school and high school science.
We're not even talking about the kids that have to get up and crack it on and get on the bus.
Yeah, you're looking at you're talking about 45 minutes in the morning and 45 minutes in the afternoon, later on buses. Because they spend a lot of time on buses. And I know some districts that go to a 4-day week, there's no sports on during the week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So then everything's gonna be Friday, Saturdays, so how does that help with spending time, family time? I mean, we make sacrifices, my daughter's involved in a lot of things. I was always involved in a lot of things. But you balance. You figure it out, you do the best you can with it, but at the same time, our littles at the elementary school can't afford not to be at school on Fridays. Not emotionally, not mentally, and not academically. They need to be there. I just have
2 questions and 1 comment. Question being, is there case studies of what other districts have done around the country in these same situations that we can read and learn from? We're not reinventing the wheel here. So I'm interested in all these are very valid points. So is there case studies that are published that we can read upon?
I did a bunch of research. The only research I found on 4-day weeks was a study that they did on student outcomes in Oregon, when Oregon went to a 4-day week, and it was based on the high school mainly, and they studied it from 2005 to 2019, and they found that the switch made during high school time, like once you were already in high school and then you switched to that, there was decline in mathematics scores, attendance, on-time graduation rates, and that was published in Education Economics in 2021. There were 2 similar studies done, one for the Journal of Education and Training Studies that was published in 2016, and one in 2022. They said they didn't see any significant declines in ELA, but in math. And then people being on graduation, on time graduating, based on increased absences.
Thank you.
And a lot of times people think, well, if they're only there 4 days, the absences will actually increase. And I went through and I looked up every single district's calendar, all 48 districts in the state. And then I went on the WDE website and I found chronic absences, ACT scores. I hand averaged all the 3-5 scores for every single district in the state and did the 6-12 scores. And there's hardly any difference between what we do now and switching to a 4-day week. Like there's no, attendance got better, or ACT scores were better with a 4-day week opposed to a 5-day week or 4.5-day week. Wyoming actually has 5 different models. The districts in Wyoming, there's 5 different ones. A regular, just straight 4-day week, a traditional 5-day week, a 4.5 like we have, a modified 5, and a modified 4. And if you look at the data based on those 4 things, ACT scores, graduation rates, absenteeism, 3-5 YTOP scores, and 6-12 YTOP scores, they're all pretty even straight through. It's the time you spend with your kids. It's what you're doing with them that makes a difference, not the amount of time. It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
And so,
thank you for doing that much research.
Well, and
that certainly wasn't part of your job.
Excuse me for just,
thank you for doing that.
Excuse me for just 1 second. I do know Mr. Caldwell has some numbers as well.
Must be about science people, like.
yeah.
And so, yeah, just to add on to some of that stuff, it's some of those similar numbers, and you're right, in terms of all the research that's out there, it's pretty well inconclusive with a bunch of stuff that's out. And so, in terms of some of the stuff with Wyoming, and just to add on to it, Sweetwater County, which is Rock Springs, they recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, they switched over to 4-day school week. And in April of 2024, they recently did a survey to talk to their people about stuff about 4-day school week. And they asked about, with K-6 parents, 7-12 parents, students and staff, about positive attendance patterns. K-6 parents said that was their positive attendance pattern when it came to the 4-day school week. K-6 parents said 70% yes. 7-12 parents, 73% said yes. Students. K-6 parents said 70% yes. 7-12 parents, 73% said yes. Students, 89% said yes. Staff, 72% said yes. When talking about does this 4-day school support students' achievement? K-6 parents, 70% said yes. 7-12 parents, 66% said yes. 87% of students said yes. And staff, 64% said yes. When talking about the 4-day school week supports school or home life balance, K-6 parents, 78% said yes. 7-12 parents, 73% said yes. Students, 88% said yes. Staff, 85% said yes. When specifically asking staff about 4-day school weeks in terms of does it support more planning and collaboration time, 83% said yes. When providing more professional development opportunities to staff on Fridays, 78% said yes. Assisting keeping teachers in the classroom, 70% said yes. 79% agree that 4-day school week has helped improve their morale, which is interesting because it kind of ties into John Haddon, which is something that we've been talking about in our school district in terms of thinking about visible learning, and in terms of teacher morale ties in really well with collective teacher efficacy, which is the highest rating that we look at. It's 1.57. 0.4 is what we call a hinge point. In terms of helping student achievement, in terms of if your teacher morale is really high, it really helps out in helping your students do very well in schools. And then in terms of what they support 4-day school week going forward, K-6 parents 75% said yes, 712 parents, 7% said yes, students, 86% said yes, and staff, 80% said yes. As students there, Corbin Messers Jr. Was talking about 4-day school week, said that this is incredibly better than 4-day school week. It allows, quote, it allows for better recovery time. It allows better mental digestion of information and the ability to learn. Having an extra day to relax and take on information, but also to study and understand information in your own way outside of school has helped immensely and allows for students to better work during days where they're in class with teachers and with professional help. It has also allowed for better attentiveness, better attendance, and overall morale increases. In Weston County, which is Torrington, they switched over last school year to a 4-day school week, and after the school year, they sent out a survey to ask people about their satisfaction with it. Overall satisfaction with the 4-day school week halfway through the school year was a 3.8 overall out of 5, with 3.4 with the staff members, 4.1 with the students, and 3.6 with the parents. Overall, in general, they were all pretty well excited, or not excited, but satisfied with what's going on there. The big things that they were struggling with in terms of their major feedback is they wanted to adjust the calendar to, in particular, to deal with how they dealt with those Friday intervention days. They had some intervention days on Fridays and wanted to have more of those. But overall, in terms of percentages, 47% of the parents, 55% of students participated in the 4-day school week, providing more opportunities for extension activities and for clubs. 82% of the parents responded to the child's overall well-being, stress levels, schoolwork, life balance has stayed the same or had improved in the first semester. And 60% of the staff members participating in the survey found managing workload to be easier or simply felt that there was no change. And then in something else that we talked about last week in terms of, someone asked about, was there any negative effect of going to a 4-day school week on student test scores? When you look at test scores, I just picked Weston County because I was one of the most recently went there. Historically, when you look at how students scored on the Y-top over the last several years, and you calculate everything out here, by class, 2032 class, 2031, 2030, 2028 classes, and the 2026 class, their test scores from the year prior to moving to the 4-day school week to doing the 4-day school week, all their scores, and also the 2029 class, all stayed the same or improved. Now, does it mean that the 4-day school week did anything to it? It just means it did not have a negative effect on it. There was one class, the 2027 class, that the scores did go down. That was the class that had just moved up to high school, so they were high school freshmen. And if you look back historically, that's all the classes that had moved up to high school all struggled. So it's not necessarily the change to a 4-day school week that is causing the struggle. It seems like it is the change of students going up to high school that's causing the struggle. So that goes to show that it's not moving to a 4-day school week, regardless if you're elementary all the way through high school, that it seems to have a negative impact on your ability to do well in school. It just doesn't have an impact. And it kind of goes to show what some research is showing here. It doesn't seem to have an effect negatively, positively, and a lot of the research does show that as long as you are adjusting for that, making sure you are using your time wisely, you're going to do well with these things. It's just a matter of if you go to a 4-day school week and you utilize your time and not just kind of let it go, students are going to do well and adjust and you're fine with it. But if you don't, you just say, okay, we're going to keep our schedule at normal. Students are not going to do well going forward.
Thank you.
Was any of this research done on Title I schools? We are a Title I school, so I was just wondering if it's...
I think Torrington is Title I.
My other question was, is it necessary that the elementary has to do the same thing as the middle school, high school? Anyone has an answer for that?
Yeah, they're on different schedules now, too, as well. And different times, different starting and end times.
Hi, me again. This time it's just me speaking for me. So I don't consider myself a veteran teacher, but I have been doing this for 13 years, so I guess that means that I am now a veteran. I'm still 18 in my head. So that was my first point that I wanted to make as a veteran teacher. I also taught elementary for 6 years. I was a K-6 elementary librarian in Gillette, and I taught over 800 kids a week. And so I understand that elementary is a totally different beast than secondary. But one thing, just to separate this from the students necessarily, is when we were having our staff meeting on Friday, one thing that I had to process that I didn't realize was an issue was that I heard them or somebody say that it was something that I had to adjust to, or something that's kind of our onus to just be teachers and to take on all of these extras, and this is just the job that we signed up for almost, which I went into. I believe that going into education, this was my expectation, was to just do the daily thing. But listening to our newer teachers that are in their first, second, third years, after processing what they said, I heard burnout, I heard overwhelmed, I heard exhausted, and as I started to think about that, I get it. Yeah, and I can't imagine doing this for 20 years and still having to do the same thing that I do right now, giving myself to students, which I love to do, and it was my job that I chose to do. But also having my own family that I would like to give back to, and hearing these newbie teachers talking that they are already seeing this and they're already feeling this, it had me step back for a second and say, is this really what we expect of people? Is this what we should expect of people, especially teachers? So when we talk about teacher retention or filling from an empty cup, which is like a mental health state of, if I don't have the energy to do it, then I'm not going to do a good job. That kind of comes down to me of, am I going to be a good teacher at the end of the day if I'm worrying about how these two are doing? And so the second part of that was, because I have kids, one of them is the incoming kinder class. That is going to be way smaller, and I look at her, and I know this is just emotional, I'm like, how did we send our babies away for generations and expect them to be, humans for 5 days a week? And I guess I see the opposite side of it, is that I would love to have that Friday with my child, to let her understand what it is to balance that mental health and to have a family, and to see that you don't have to give your all to everything, that you are a rounded human being outside of school. And so I guess that's what I see, is I would like to have more time as a parent outside of being a teacher with my kids, so that I can help them and work on those kinds of things that I probably wouldn't have the time or the energy to do regularly.
All they want is to lose the public notice requirements so they can keep even more secrets than they're keeping now. I can't side with local governments in these fights anymore. I used to. For 20 years I sided with them. I can't. I've got to back the legislature, and I've got to back the Freedom Caucus and sort of breaking the chain and bringing local governments to heel.
And I think that that'll bring the people to heel. While I think the people deserve some, I think that people have become too accommodated to everything. And when you peel back government and local government, you're going to make the people uncomfortable too, but I think it'll make everybody stronger.
And hey, if the people can't handle it, they can vote these guys out in 2 years, right? That's the thing about the Wyoming legislature, is they can neither help too much too rapidly or hurt too much too rapidly. Wyoming does have good reserve accounts.
And help them and work on those kinds of things that I probably wouldn't have the time or the energy to do regularly.
Thank you. Oh, Sally.
I'll just piggyback on Maggie. I had her job before she did. If I want to make a change, I wouldn't be here today. So, good luck. But actually, I just want to talk as a parent because it's really hard to raise your kids. I'm a senior, but I think we've done, me and my husband, a pretty good job of letting the school teach our kids and us do the rest at home. And maybe this conversation needs to take into account some of those kids that are really good kids, that miss a lot of school, that, well, when my kids escaped, they'd like to go skiing one day, but they can't because they're involved in all the school stuff, and that's 6 days a week. And we need at least one day as a family, and that's Sunday. If they had Fridays to go do some of the things, that'd be really nice for our family. And it's just, I know we talk a lot about the demographic that needs school maybe Friday, but there are a lot of us that parent our own kids and do a really good job. And there's two sides to every story. As an educator, I'll be here, tell me my schedule, I'll come. I'm here most nights, you'll find me here. But I think like my family could benefit from that extra day. And we do the work at home so that the school doesn't have to.
Thank you. I know we have some students in the audience, so if any of you are feeling like it, we would love to hear from you too. I said, I know we have some students in the audience, and I would love to hear from some of you if you feel like letting us know what you think. Here's one. Okay.
Hi, so I'm Sam. I'm a junior in high school currently, and I am involved with, I'm a student primarily. First off, I'm a student, and then I'm an athlete second off. And not only that, but I also am heavily involved in my church activities, which take a lot of time. I am the 5th grade and 4th grade leader on Tuesday nights at my youth group, and so I have to take that time not to be able to work on schoolwork, not to be able to study, not to be able to catch up from all the sports I miss and from all the activities I'm part of, but I have to spend that helping teach these kids in our community and trying to help them out. And not only that, with some sports, with this current block schedule, I would miss my B-Day or A-Day class multiple times a week because our sports would alternate between Thursday and Friday events. And so my stress levels from missing those classes, and I'm not just taking only high school classes, I'm also taking college classes. I'm taking statistics right now, and I know for sure that if I miss a day in that class, it is very difficult for me to catch up on my own. I can watch YouTube videos, I can learn that way. I have that capability, but it's much more preferable for me and my mental health to be able to be in person, to be able to learn from the teacher, and going to these 4-day school weeks, I'd be able to have that Friday to be able to work on my other activities and not have to worry about falling behind school, not have to worry about falling behind advanced chemistry, my statistics class, but instead be able to relax and have time with my family and be able to work on my other activities. And so that's just where I stand.
Thank you.
I will say also, as Sam's English teacher, today's the first day I've seen him in a week because of his various activities and illnesses. So today is genuinely the first time I've had contact time with Sam since 2 weeks ago, pretty much.
I don't have any numbers, but just from my life experience, we had our children in New Orleans schools in South Dakota. They switched to 4-day school weeks. There was some promises, of how it was going to flow. It didn't, and it was not a good experience. That's just my experience. I'm not saying what other people are experiencing. The state had to come in and take over the school because academics went down. But I'm not saying that would happen here, but that's just what we experienced with 4-day school weeks.
Do you have any sense of what you think the main problem or two was that they had that caused such issues?
I do not know I do not. At that time, I was homeschooling my younger children. My high schoolers were going to high school. And I was for the 4-day school weeks. I loved having my children. And that was awesome for me. But one of the promises that we thought that kind of sold me on it was that the teachers would be available to help those students struggling, that they could come in and get more one-on-one time, and that was not the case. The teachers were not at the school on Fridays. So that was just my experience with 4-day school weeks.
Thank you.
I have a question too about, what has research shown about kids who are on IEPs, or now we have ILPs? What has research shown about those kids in a 4-day school week?
Hi, so I actually got to be an IEP teacher at a 4-day school week. And I'm not gonna lie, making the transition from a 4-day school week to a 5-day school week was very hard for my service times per se. Because we always talk about a big accommodation for special ed is the extended time.
Please hold that to your mouth.
Sorry, I thought I talked about that. But a big accommodation is that extended time for a lot of our students. And in middle school and in high school, yeah, that's great. But like, where is that extended time going to come from? Because with our kids, we all know they need extra repetition, we need that practice immediately. And with those shorter days, shorter weeks, we had longer days. So I was able to have my kid be in the general ed classroom, get that lesson, and still have enough time to pull my student and give them the reteaching they needed and have that immediate feedback that they need to retain that information. So I actually had a really hard time going from a shorter school day where I was like, okay, cool, we just did the math lesson, and now I have no time to catch you up on what you missed. And it was a lot of just treading water and not, I didn't think that it's as valuable time from my experience.
Anyone else care to ask a question, let us know what you think? This will be on our agenda for our next meeting, the second Wednesday of February, so a week from Wednesday. Please feel free to get in touch with us if we haven't heard from you. Some of us will stay a little longer in case you don't like to talk in public. Just want to come up and chat about it. That would be great. We really appreciate hearing from everyone. I want you to know we are taking this extremely seriously. We have heard what you have said. We have read our messages and our emails, and we're going to do the best we can. We know we will not please everyone. None of us up here took this job because we would please everyone. We know we won't please everyone, so we appreciate a little grace about that too, when it's all said and done. So before we go, let's do a quick show of hands, if you don't mind. Let's do in favor of a 40 week. Okay, and opposed? Okay, and who's undecided? Okay, that's good. Thanks for letting us know that too. All right, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your participation. As you can see from watching the legislature, it's pretty important to know what's going on wherever you can. So thank you. Drive safe home.